Hello, it's Joanna Berger, animal behaviorist with Masters of Science in Applied Animal Behavior and Animal Welfare, and I own the animal behavior consultancy business. So, this video is going to finish Duncan crate. You go in your crate? Bear with me 1 second. Just putting him in. He's putting himself in his crate. Good boy. Stay. In just a moment. All right. So, this video is to wrap up the series of videos about treating a phobia. The phobia in these series of videos was a phobia of bees. So I just wanted to sit down and talk a little bit about what goes into treating a phobia. So we have the process called desensitization and counterconditioning, and that process should be done by an experienced behaviorist because it should always be done while the animal is calm and happy. And what we're doing is providing the animal with something that they totally love, that makes them feel really nice, usually delicious food, like your dog's most favorite food. As you saw in my videos, I used both bread and a plain bagel as the food in my work with Acorn the Beagle. And the reason I used those was because those are his most favorite food items. So I can tell what his most favorite foods are based on his response to the foods and how excited he gets to eat them and how likely he is to eat them when he is not readily eating other foods. So, like, he likes kibble, but he doesn't love kibble as much as he loves bread, because he will eat bread in instances when he would just ignore the kibble. And he really follows the bread with his nose and mouth and is very excited about the bread if I get it out in the house and he sees it. So the bread was what we used as his special treat. And then in the process of desensitization and counter-conditioning, I gradually exposed him to different aspects of a bee. That is the sound of the bee, the smell of the bee, and the look of the bee, which I didn't make a video for that, but one thing that I did do with him was just kind of move my finger around so that it looked kind of like a flying bee. But we introduce the dog to those stimuli at very, like the lowest intensity possible. So when we are introducing him to the sound of the bee, I had a YouTube video playing that had bee sounds in it, but I had it on my phone and I had the volume turned all the way down. So it was super low. And then very gradually, as I could watch him and see that he was calm and relaxed and happy and comfortable, I was feeding him and petting him and playing the bee sound at that same time, and then very gradually increased the volume of that sound. So I gradually and systematically increased the intensity of that stimulus. Same with the look of the bee and the smell of the bee. This is a little experimental, but we tried using honey. So I would put the honey in the room and then give him a treat, and then eventually have him go up and sniff the honey, and then he'd get a treat, and then he earned a treat for sniffing the honey for a longer period of time, longer interval. So that's how I increased the intensity of the smell stimulus. And then I also had videos of some work with him outside, taking him for a walk and using a bagel or a piece of bread to lure him through the door pairing the doorway, which had been previously paired with bees and had become a frightening, stress-inducing stimulus, with something delicious, the bread or the bagel, so that it became less stressful and more pleasant. And that is the whole purpose of desensitization and counter conditioning. You are teaching the animal through classical conditioning that the stimulus that scared them is no longer scary, and it's becoming either neutral or eventually pleasant, and it's being associated with something that the animal really loves and finds really, really pleasant. And so we're changing the association that they have. Previously, I bet that his bee phobia came from walking into a bee's nest and being badly stung. So the sound and sight and smell of a bee was associated with the pain of being stung. And therefore, we wanted to change that by associating the sight, smell, and sound of a bee with eating bread and the feeling of being happy and a good taste. And so, yeah, that's the process of changing that association. And then I wanted to mention a bit about something that just happened on our last little walk outside. I was watching really closely for any bees so that I could intervene as needed. So I saw a bumblebee, and Acorn actually did not see it because he was facing the opposite direction from the bee. But what I did in that situation is I saw the bee, and Acorn was close to the bee, but just facing away and hadn't seen it yet. The wind was blowing, so he hadn't heard it or smelled it either. But even though he didn't notice it, because I saw that it was there, I did give him a chunk of bagel. He seemed very happy about that. And then I just led him quickly in the opposite direction. So if I see something that I know is going to cause stress to my animal, then I will walk them away from it quickly and put as much distance between that frightening object and my animal as possible, while feeding the animal a delicious treat. And I can use the food to get the animal's attention on me so that they don't see the scary bee, and then I can lead them using that food away in the opposite direction. Eventually, and I started doing this afternoon, I had time at the end of our walk where I sat on my porch, and Acorn seemed really happy and calm. So I just fed him some bagel and petted him and scratched his ears, which he really loves. And that was while he was on the porch. The porch had been a scary place for a while, so it was nice that he was able to relax on the porch and receive delicious food and nice scritches. That all feels really good to him. So that was another way of associating the porch with something pleasant. It's also a sunny day, which had been scaring him because he knew that the bees came out on sunny days. So we were able to have some time outside on the sunny porch that was relaxed and calm and associated with food and petting. And then, because he was doing so well at that point, I was able to start doing some desensitization and counter conditioning outside on the porch in that more potentially stressful environment. So we had started the desensitization and counter conditioning inside while he was lying in his really comfortable bed in a really quiet room where everything was really calm and there was no chance of any bees or anything like bees actually being there. But then this afternoon, because he was doing so well, I was able to do a little bit outside on the porch. And the way I did that was, as I showed you in one of these videos, I just made the buzzing sound with my mouth while I was scratching his ear and also feeding him some of the bagel. And he seemed calm. And I could tell that he was calm because He was relaxed. His body didn't tense. His body movements were loose, and he leaned into the scratches and was enjoying the scratches, and he was eating. Another big sign that a dog is afraid or highly stressed is that they will stop eating. And this had happened previously with Acorn and this bee phobia. But I was glad to be able to do a little work on the porch and have him remain calm enough and happy enough that he was taking food from me the whole time, which is what you want. So you're working at the dog's pace as you are with any training, checking in with them, watching their body language and behavior, closely observing the animal, and you're also closely observing, staying really vigilant about what's going on around you in the environment. And you're looking out for anything that could startle or scare your dog. In this case, it's specific to bees, so I was watching out for bees anytime that I was outside with him, because as his guardian and handler and trainer, I need to really look out for everything around him, really be aware of what's going on, observing the environment with my eyes and my ears and all of my senses, really, and also observing him. So I've noticed I have very good peripheral vision now, just from doing behavior modification work for so long. Some people I've worked with have said, oh, you have a sixth sense, because no matter what, like, even while we're chatting, what's going on with my dog and what's going on in the environment. And I don't know how you're so good at that, but it just comes with practice. And I've had a lot of practice working with animals for a long time, but it is a skill, and it is something that I teach my clients. If you would like help with this, it's definitely best to work with a qualified animal behaviorist. And I do offer remote behavior consultations primarily for parrots. So if you have a fearful parrot or a parrot with a phobia, which absolutely does happen, the treatment is similar, but it's a little different because it's a bird and not a dog. But I would love to work with you and coach you through that, so that I can teach you to be as good of an observer of behavior and of the environment, and very importantly, teach and coach you through delivering the food or whatever we're using that the animal loves. So first of all, identifying what it is that your pet loves the most. I can discuss that with you and coach you through that. We can do different little trials to see what your animal really, really responds to. And then I can coach you through delivering that in the correct, at the exact right time. Timing is super important. And again, that's a learned skill, and the skill that I have because I have practiced it a lot. So not only have I studied this topic in great depth, but I have work experience doing this for quite a while, and would be happy to teach you. I also have experience teaching and coaching clients through this process. So that's kind of an overview of the process of treating fear or really treating phobias. It's a little different if your animal has more generalized anxiety. That happens frequently. Many animals do have generalized anxiety where they're afraid of multiple things or just scared in general overall. And I definitely do work with those animals frequently, and would love to have an appointment scheduled for your animal if that's something that you're dealing with. But in this case, I was talking about specific phobias and how we treat those. So look out for those if your animal is acting abnormal, if they're not doing what they used to do. Like with Acorn, I had already house trained him, and he had been going outside happily, but this time, like all of a sudden, he stopped going outside and was refusing to go outside. I've had clients where that happens with their pet and they don't know why that's happened. And so I do a behavior analysis and I identify what is, like in certain cases with certain patients and clients, I have identified a very specific phobia, and that has explained why the dog isn't going outside to go to the bathroom anymore all of a sudden. So animals do experience fear. They can have phobias. It's very similar to phobias that humans might have. The treatment is similar, and it is something that I have a great deal of experience in. There are also other qualified animal behaviorists who I could refer you to, especially if you have a dog or a cat, who there's quite a few behaviorists who focus on dogs and cats. And I have good resources to refer you to as well. My email address is animalbehaviorconsultancy@gmail.com. And if you have questions about scheduling an appointment, you can email me there, or you can feel free to comment below here, and I'll check the messages and get back to you as soon as I can. Hopefully this has been interesting and educational for you. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye.